Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great Easter and I hope you enjoyed the weekend and got to enjoy some of the beautiful weather we've been having and just had a relaxing time. So, last week we covered Module 12, which was chapters 11 and 12 in our textbook. So, we talked about how a lot of times, because of children's developmental needs and where they are developmentally, they might not have the problem solving skills or the stamina that we expect them to. And if they have a behavior that we don't necessarily agree with or it's not what we like, we need to address it in a very positive and patient manner where we offer them lots of positive redirection and guidance. And we really think of discipline more as a teaching tool and a teaching technique where we're understanding what is developmentally appropriate for them, what they are able to do, and that's included and reflected in the expectations that we have for them. So if you're trying to have circle time with a 3 or 4 year old and after 3 minutes they get up and walk off, well, that's going to happen. That's developmentally appropriate. We're going to have to just expect that and plan for it and maybe offer some other ways to redirect them and bring their attention back. So this week we're looking at Module 13, which is chapters 13 and 14. So we're going to look at how we can meet the various needs of children as well as help children who may have experienced different stressful factors in their lives or stressful situations. So I've included here the PowerPoints for chapter 13 and chapter 14. So it's two different files to download. So here's the chapter 13 PowerPoint. So chapter 13 is how to help children who, because of their cognitive or social needs, might have disruptive behavior. So when we say disruptive behavior, that means maybe non-compliance. They will not do what you've asked them to, or inattention, just not being able to pay attention to what you're asking them to do or what you're discussing. Or sometimes even we see children who have issues with aggression or temper tantrums. So what can you do when you're working with children who are exhibiting those behaviors? Well, a lot of times with clear communication with the children and letting them know what our expectations are, we can offset and prevent some of these situations before they even happen. I realize a lot of times with children, you might see like trigger factors. You might see that you can start to see that something is happening or that they're not liking what's happening. So if you're paying attention with your observations, sometimes you can actually distinguish or redirect that behavior before it fully comes to fruition. Um, However, sometimes you have children who, based on their own cognitive needs, might have trouble fully communicating with you or regulating their emotions. So what are some guidance techniques that we can use to help children who are off task or inattentive? Well, I'm going to make that a discussion board question for this week because I know that you guys have awesome ideas. You talked about some of those last week when we were talking about basing our expectations on what are developmentally appropriate for children. So some of those are the same techniques that we can use to help children who are off task or who just don't want to or unable to pay attention. And then how can we help children who are non-compliant? Again, you know what I'm going to say. A lot of positive redirection goes a long way. However, there are situations where sometimes based on the child's emotional extensive needs, you might need to call in someone else, like a behavior therapist or someone who's trained on working with children with emotional or cognitive needs, and then there'll be a good reference person to you to help with some additional ideas. Sometimes children just need a break. We've talked about before in the center how there's the little comfy cozy areas. They kind of look like dog beds to us, but those little comfy cozy areas where children can go and can take a break and can take a few minutes out. I've seen some teachers in their classrooms set up little areas where there's a lava light or there's little fidget spinners, or there's different areas where children can just kind of go, pull themselves together in order to come back to the classroom. Also, sometimes if you see a child starting to get angry, I've found that it's really beneficial or really helpful if you can kind of get them to think about something else and redirect them. Then once they're calm and cool and collected, then you can go back and finish maybe the conversation that you were having earlier. And then how can we guide children who use aggression to meet their needs? Because obviously we don't want children to fall into the trap of having a temper tantrum in order to get what they want. We don't want that to happen because that's not fixing the problem. We want to make sure that we take the time to actually fix the root of what's causing these problems. So if you can go back and look in your textbook and read over these pages in chapter 13, we're going to have a group collective conversation about this in our discussion board for this week. And then one of the most important things we can do as teachers is help children develop friendships. We want to model love and acceptance and empathy and caring for one another with the children, so that the children treat and act each other with that same empathy and love. We want to model for them how we can see other people's perspectives and we can see the different points of view, so that as they're developing, they can pick up those habits as well. And then lastly, it's important to really work with families and other professionals to know how to best meet children's needs. As a classroom teacher, we're not really trained that extensively on what to do to help children with extreme emotional or cognitive needs. And so we need to work with supportive personnel to help give us some strategies and ideas on what we can do. Okay, so that was chapter 13. So chapter 14 talks about how we can help children with emotional needs. Unfortunately, the experiences that some children have encountered directly impact our relationship with them in the classroom. And sadly, we will encounter children who have been exposed to violence or abuse, have maybe been in and out of foster care, maybe have a parent who's incarcerated, maybe have multiple moms or dads that are spread out in different houses in different situations, maybe have a parent who's currently deployed, maybe even experience the death of a parent, or be living in extreme poverty. So these are all pertinent issues that children may be dealing with that definitely affect how they act in the classroom. So what can we do to help? First of all, observe them. Look for patterns and routines. Observe them to see what they do really well, and then what gives them problems that they may struggle with. Then we can use our observations to really capitalize on that, bring to their attention what they're doing well, develop a relationship and bond with them, building on their interest. And then we'll also know what are some triggers that are leading to situations that they're not able to handle as well. Also, like I said, help children build their self-esteem, really capitalize on what they do well and what they know and can do. So this chapter goes over the classroom culture. It talks about how the physical environment should be arranged to be responsive to meet the child's individual needs. Also, we need to make sure our classroom routines are very predictable, so yet the children know and have that stability of what's happening, but yet at the same time we can be flexible to meet any current needs. 3, we need to make sure that we're building positive and nurturing relationships where we're giving children a chance to problem solve in a comfortable, risk-free environment. And then also we need to make sure we're listening to children, that we're supporting them, that we're validating their feelings, and that we know that what they're saying is accurate and true, and we understand and we're there to help them. 5, activities and materials should be appropriate to the needs of the children. And then 6, teachers need to be aware of issues particularly relevant to the lives of of children with emotional needs. And so again, as teachers, we are not alone in helping these children. We can work with specialists and counselors. We can make referrals. We have directors of centers and principals that are all there to help us bring in some support and training to help us meet the needs of these children. Okay, so please read over chapters 13 and 14 in your text. So also this week, you have a discussion board. So the question for chapter 14 was, excuse me, how can teachers help children who have been exposed to stressful situations in their lives? So that was the last one I just went over. And then also your observation assignment is due this week. So for this week, for your assignments, you have two things that are due. Your Module 13 discussion board, which has a question from Chapter 13, a question from Chapter 14, and then I've asked you just to reflect on your observation assignment. So what's the biggest takeaway or something you learned from completing the observation assignment? You don't have to write a lot for each one, just a few sentences for each question is fine. And then also your observation assignment is due this week. So remember, I had posted the update to the observation assignment. So if you completed at least 7 observation hours, you can just write your report based on the hours you completed. If you had only completed between 4 to 6 observation hours, please base your paper on your observations, but also include one reference. If you hadn't completed any observations yet or completed 3 hours or less, please write your paper based on the hours that you did complete, but also include at least 3 references. So please submit your completed observation paper and a photo of your time log of hours, your log sheet that you completed. Submit that this week and complete your discussion board. So those assignments are due by midnight on Sunday, April 19th. Also, next week, your new classroom project is due. So in my video last week, I talked about that assignment and some ways you can now make that a digital portfolio. So this week, 2 assignments, Module 13 discussion board, and your observation paper. Next week, your new classroom project binder. So please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything that I can do or help you with. And I hope you have a great week.